Hi, and welcome back to my channel. Huge day today, up almost $34. Before I get started, I just want to remind everybody I'm working real hard trying to get at least one video out a week, doing some additional content. So if you could, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, comment, anything like that. It'd be awesome, greatly appreciated. But the big news for today is Bitcoin. So as we can see, my two ETFs are up, Vivint Solar's down. So basically a pretty neutral day all around throughout all my stocks. But when we go ahead and look at Bitcoin, we can see a gigantic spike today. Good news to see for sure, but at the same time, I am skeptical. And at the same time, I am a little bit cautious because I don't know if this is going to last, if it's going to spike again, if we're going to see a downward trend again. So we'll start with this article that I have pulled up, and it's about predictions that people have for Bitcoin right now. So as you can see, titled Bitcoin is on the brink of going parabolic. Here's the levels to watch. So here's what basically happened today. So we see that they had the resistance marked at $7,500. Right now, Bitcoin's trading about 7,800. This article said 7,750. It's a couple hours old. It did touch just under 8,000 today with a little bit of pullback. Still, that's a very big gain. That's a lot of money moving around and definitely something to watch. Here they note that as of a couple weeks ago, we saw that Bitcoin had lows of even $6,400. So huge gains on the week. And they've got a little bit more detailed graphs here. So these are from Twitter. We'll go ahead and look at these. So we can see downward trends, a couple of these troughs, the way that they describe them, and really this upward swing that we're predicting in the next couple of weeks. I've talked about it in previous videos. I'm not an expert on this. I don't claim to be. All that being said, I do think that Bitcoin has a bright future, and certainly going 2020 into 2021, I think now's a great time to buy. A lot of people are predicting that this is about as low as Bitcoin's going to be, and we're going to see all upward growth for the next 2 years. I'm not totally sure, but I do know that Bitcoin's something I want to continue to invest in. So, if you've got any ideas on that, go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think. The reason that I picked this article, though, is that they bring up basically the 2 points that Bitcoin analysts are looking at. So as we can see here, key resistance levels they have at $9,000 and $10,000 respectively. We haven't seen Bitcoin up above $10,000 since last fall. It's been probably 4 or 5 months since that's happened. Now, as you can see, a downward wedge. If you know anything about stocks or trading, a lot of people think that downward wedge really is an indication of future growth and growth pretty quickly in the future. So definitely something to watch and look at. And we'll go ahead and look at my Bitcoin as of right now. So I talked about in last week's video, I did go ahead and purchase a little bit more Bitcoin. I am up to 5.87% of one Bitcoin. 14% of my portfolio is Bitcoin. Still down $120 on that all time, but not super concerned. Again, I've talked about it. I think this is a long-term stock, a lot of movement. I think that as the halving happens here coming in May, that'll be huge for Bitcoin, so I'm very optimistic. Now, as we can see, about $462. If we look on the day, we can see we're up 5%. While this may say I'm up 2% on today, that's clearly not true. Clearly a much larger gain than that. Not much going on in the last hour, but again, in the last day, it's up about 5%. The last week, it's up almost 10%. On the month, it's even up. It's really when we start looking at the 3 months, and even the 3-month chart now is showing positive gains. But when we look at the year, we can see there were extremely large gains here into June. And then at the end of June, Bitcoin started to nosedive, go downward. But like I keep saying, I think it's a great investment to make for the future. I talked about it last week too. My dollar cost averaging is working. My average cost is down below $10,000, which is a big price level for me. So as we can see, didn't buy much in the month of December, but in the last couple weeks of November, I was buying $10 a week. And as we can see, that's getting me about 0.001 Bitcoin right now. Not huge, but definitely something to watch onto. My goal really for this channel and for my portfolio is to be somewhere around $8,000 at the end of the year. Just like I said in my dividend video, I think that's a pretty aggressive goal, but I do think it's doable, and that's really why I'm sticking to that $8,000 price level. It's something that I think is very doable. Now, if we go ahead and look on the week, or excuse me, the month, we can see that I'm up 2.3%. Great to see. I do like this 1 month chart. I think it's pretty interesting, and the mobile version of Robinhood doesn't have quite as good of a 1 month chart. When we look at 3 months, we can see up almost 7%, which is just wonderful. Definitely really excited about that. Over the last year, I am just over a year now on Robinhood, so this does differ a little bit. But as we can see, I'm up 2.03% in the last year. All time, still showing 2.03%. And it's really because when I started my portfolio, I had so little money invested that there wasn't much difference at all. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at my ETFs real quick. So I talked about in my last video, these ETFs have been struggling a little bit in the past week or so. Was up on the day, but if we see on the last week, it was absolutely down. Not a whole bunch, but we can see there was this big upward spike. This $44.12 was an all-time high for SPHD. So that's something interesting and something to note. I am looking forward to purchasing probably 1 to 2 more of these here in January, and certainly more in the future. I've talked about this many times. I'm up $14 on that all time, and I do get a monthly dividend on that. So as we can see, in November, I got a dividend of $1.39 on my 9 shares, and in December, I received a dividend of $1.55 on 10 shares. So that's slowly moving upward, and something that I'm excited about. VTI, very similar gains, not a whole lot different going on there. Up on the day, however, on the week, well, actually this is up on the week, but we saw this large upward spike and a downward trend. Up $22 on these all time, which is great to see. A little bit lower dividend here, and this pays quarterly instead of monthly, but definitely a bread and butter share for me. Vivint Solar, down to about $7.70, not a big deal at all. Up $33 on this all time, 11%. I've talked about it time and time again. I think this is a stock I want to continue to buy in the future. 3 months, we can see pretty good upward growth, and in the last year, as I've showed before, real large upward growth, downward growth here, and we're rebounding. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now, a couple ones that I also want to talk about would be Coca-Cola. This is, again, one of my larger holdings. I'm definitely looking at purchasing more Coca-Cola stocks this year. Great dividend company. It's a dividend king, as I've discussed in many videos. I am down 20 cents on that all time, but my dividend payments that I receive quarterly really make up for this. So as we can see, in October, received a dividend of $1.60, and here in December, dividend of $2. Coca-Cola has announced they are increasing their dividend for this year from 40 cents to 41 cents. Not a huge increase, but that 2.5% is definitely worthwhile, something to look out for, and a big reason why I want to continue to invest in Coca-Cola. Microsoft, I've talked about it before. I always like to talk about them, just because this has been such a good stock for me. Up almost $35 on this all time. Wish I would have bought more. On the last week, we'll just show that, up just over 1%, which is pretty darn good. I'm looking forward to Microsoft increasing their dividends. Their new CEO, or relatively new CEO, is dedicated to increasing their dividends and believes that's a strategy for success for them. So a great reason to buy Microsoft, and as we can see, 88% buy rating on Robinhood, so the experts agree. Now, one of the last ones we'll talk about here is AT&T. I've talked about them quite a bit, but it's definitely a stock that I want to increase my position of. So trading at about $39 right now, up about $1 all time on each of those shares, 2.73%. If we go down and look at my dividend history, we can see that it's paid $1.02 here in November, but we do know that I'm going to be receiving more dividend payments because I did go ahead and purchase that share there at the end of December. So I would say it will be one of my larger paying dividend stocks, and a position that I think will hold up well in the future. I talked about in one of my videos with the advent of 5G technology and phones being more reliant on that. AT&T is set up well to succeed in the future. We'll go ahead and talk about one more. It's a company that I haven't talked about a whole lot super recently. I had talked about them in the past. This would be Charles Schwab. So we can see we're up to $47, up about $8 on Charles Schwab all time. Again, a company that I want to buy, but I do think I want to be a little bit hesitant with Charles Schwab because I think they might have overcorrected. A lot of optimism about them merging with TD Ameritrade, and also their excuse me, zero commission trading. I'm not sure how big that's going to end up being. I've read some conflicting reports on that. I think it definitely is exciting, but I am more optimistic on them than I've been. So down about 1% on the week. But if we look at the last 3 months, we can see great growth and a little bit of a pullback now. The last year is where it really starts to get interesting. Charles Schwab was not looking great. And once they made this announcement that they were going to zero commission trading, people got excited because it meant that they really had a leg up on their competitors because they were trying something different. And a lot of people believe that Robinhood had a big part to play with Charles Schwab moving to this zero commission trading platform and thought process. So that's going to be it for this week's video. Like I said, I'm doing my best to get up one video a week. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Just let me know what you think. And again, I do post my Robinhood link in the description of every video. If you do want to sign up with Robinhood, you get a free stock. I get a free stock. It's good for everyone. So thank you, and I'll be back next week.